Blockbuster moves, a rebuilt offensive line, and wait, is DJ Moore really on the trade block? We've got a special guest, and we're going to break down everything you need to know about the Chicago Bears' wild offseason as a collective whole. Let's get into it. Huddle up! What's up, Hallis Huddlers? I am excited about this podcast. This is something that's been in the works for, a little bit. We have a special guest joining the show. I am saddened that he is no longer podcasting. He used to be a former co-host of Bear Down Chicago. A bunch of great guys over there. But he's also the assistant editor of the Bears Wire. And for those of you who don't know him, or you don't know how to pronounce his last name, it's Brendan Sugrue. I'm sure there's lots of ways that he has heard it, but let's bring him in and let's talk some Chicago Bears. What's up, Brendan?
What's up,
how are
Rob?
you doing?
I'm good. You're right. I have heard my name butchered a million times.
Including by Waddle or Sylvie.
Yeah, Sylvie was bad at it. And amazingly, too, because Waddle is the guy who can never remember anything. And he remembers how to say my last name perfectly. In fact, I was just golfing last weekend with some buddies, and they call it they get the name of who books the reservation, everything. And I hear Sergey or Sergey, and something like that. And I look over, my buddy's like, he's talking about you. And I was like, say that again. I was like, Sugrue. And because I knew, I was like, if I say the Sugrue, like they're not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. So
right.
It still happens, even whether somebody's calling me out on the radio or I'm on the golf course. So it's all good though.
You know, I don't have it as bad as you. With Schwartz, everyone says Schwartz. My wife was a teacher for the longest time, and they butchered, the kids would butcher her last name. But some of them would just call her Mrs. Schmores. I don't know if it was just because they thought it was funny or if they just really couldn't pronounce it. But yeah, Schwartz is constantly thrown out there. But that's definitely not as rough as you have it with yours. So, but I have made sure to know it. I have known it for a while. We have been following each other and met at least once at Bears training camp for quite some time on Twitter. And you do great work. For those of you who don't read the Bears Wire, please go check that out. That is great content. Obviously, a little bit of a competitor with Bear Goggles on, but you guys are quite bigger than us. So,
but honestly, like, I appreciate the work you do. I've obviously read your stories, and I'm sure you can appreciate this as a writer, especially after games too, when you kind of have your own thoughts and you see other people putting out their stuff. You're like, I don't want to read it yet. I want to read it, but I want to get my thoughts out there first, so I can just be like, not influenced one way or the other. And then I like to go back after I publish my stuff and like read, what Rob's doing, what other people like, Weeder and other, competing blog sites. Cause it's all, we're all talking football at the end of the day, and everybody has unique perspectives. And so it is good to hear and see what other people maybe are, thinking about what we just all saw. So, it's all in good fun, even though we're technically competitors. I've told you this, I respect the hell out of you and, what you guys do, and as well as some, a lot of the other sites as well.
Yeah, same. Alyssa, obviously, for people who don't know, Alyssa, like, she kind of is behind the scenes, but she's the editor over there, and she does not get the credit that she deserves. I try to toot her horn as much as I can because, she doesn't put her face out there, so people don't know that, like, she is the editor over there at Bears Wire. But I try to, again, give her a lot of credit and a lot of dues because, like you said, we're all here to support each other. I mean, we're not ESPN, we're not NFL Network. It's just all in good fun, and we're covering, for a lot of us, it's a passion, right? So that brings me to my question is, who is at fault for your torture at being a Chicago Bears fan? Because I'll preface this that I blame my father. I grew up as a Miami Dolphins fan just because of Dan Marino, the Ace Ventura thing. That's what got me into football. But then my dad went out and decided to get Chicago Bears season tickets. And then it was one of those things, like I was prime high school. I kind of always followed the Bears because they were the local team, but like once you start going to the games, it's hard not to become like a true fan. And now my dad's passed, but I surpassed him before he passed away, and I am the diehard Bears fan in my family. So who is at fault for your fandom? Do you have a story like that?
A little bit. I'd say it's a collective effort with my family. I really think I sort of discovered it on my own. So when I was 12, 13, I'd always grown up playing sports, but it was mostly baseball and soccer. Football was sort of foreign to me. And one time, this was like maybe sixth grade or something, my brother comes home with my dad from a sporting goods store and comes home with a football. And he's like, I kind of want to learn how to throw the football. And I was like, hey, I'll play with you. That'd be fun. I took like one just grip of that thing and I fired it. And I'm like, oh, this is not like I immediately, I'm not like a, quarterback or anything, but I like instant spiral, instant like good arm for where I was. I'm like, oh, this feels good. I like this. And at that same time, I was getting into the Cubs. It was 2003. And it was the first sort of, when they were going into their playoff run, the NLCS, all of that stuff, that got me hooked. I was all in on professional sports and wanting to just see them go far. I'd always been like a Cubs fan and a Bears fan, but way, way, way far away from it.
Yeah.
After the Cubs got bounced by the Marlins, I was like, okay, I have this desire to keep watching sports and to keep getting into this. The Bears are now on because it's October, and maybe let's see how that goes. And there was like a couple games I just started watching front to back, and I got hooked instantly. And the crazy thing was, it wasn't even a good team. It was the end of the Dick Duran era. Cordell Stewart and Chris Chandler were just starting. I had no idea Rex Grossman was even on the team because as I'm watching coverage, I'm watching like Tom Waddle on the Final Word on Fox 32, breaking down the games afterwards. And then they're saying, okay, the rookie quarterback's going to play. And I'm like, where did he come from? And so it's amazing to think about where I started 22 years ago and became a diehard fan almost like instantly within like a couple weeks to where I'm at now. And I'd like to tell a story as the Chicago Cubs were my first love when it comes to professional sports. The Chicago Bears are my true love. So that's sort of how it got started. And here we are.
Yeah, I could probably say that about the Bulls because I grew up as a diehard, Michael Jordan fan. How could you not be a kid in the Chicagoland area and not be obsessed with the Chicago Bulls? But my grandpa got me into like the playing card trading and all that stuff. So like it was all about Michael Jordan back then. But yeah, as soon as I became like a true Bears fan, like all that just kind of went behind the scenes. And same as you, like it's so hard to quit this team, even when they suck. Obviously, I'm older than you, but like we have seen a lot of bad football over the years. Let's talk about where we're going because I would hope that we're getting to a point now where the needle is, trending in the right direction. At least it feels like it. That said, it kind of felt like it last year and it didn't go that route. Kind of felt like it in 2018 and then 2019 happened. So, I mean, there's been a lot of like flirtation with greatness and then we just get let down. So let's talk just kind of general offseason approach. I want to start with, were you happy that they got rid of Matt Eberflus, for one? Two, would you have rather him be gone the year prior, like most of us?
What kind of question is that, man? Yes, of course. And I think as somebody who's, I'm entering my mid 30s, I'm a little more sympathetic to just saying fire so and so, fire and so because it's just so easy and it feels so lazy. But look, we saw the writing on the wall last year going into the offseason. I mean, this was time for a perfect reset when it came to having the number 1 overall pick. Felt like the team had really peaked under Eberflus, and by peaked, I mean having a above average defense that still found a way to lose games in the most heart-wrenching fashion. So when it was all going down that Eberflus might get fired, he might not get fired, I sort of was like, you can't be half in and half out and just have a lame duck head coach when you get a rookie quarterback, because you are going to put them through hell. It's going to be a bad situation. And in my opinion, I was like, you got to extend him or you got to fire him. I mean, thank God they didn't extend him, but man, just keeping him that much longer for a few months, just seeing the team devolve. Clearly when the Hail Mary happened, I've heard some people say, well, if this didn't happen, the Bears, we might have gone on a run or something. I'm like, no, it just exposed what was already there. You just saw it a little bit sooner with the fact that this team was not mentally strong because they had poor leadership at the top, and it needed to go, clearly, because you don't make a move for the first time in your franchise's history unless you feel very, very strongly that things are not getting better and they're only getting worse. So I had absolutely zero problem with them firing Matt Eberflus when they did. The only issue is they should have just reset after the 2023 season, because I'm 95, and that may be low, like 95% of people saw this exact scenario coming.
Now, I will say, I know there's rumors that Ben Johnson wanted the job even last year, but this is the first time I've had a head coach that I actually wanted get hired by the Chicago Bears. Matt Eberflus was 7th on my list when they were hiring back in 2022. So not even close to the top. I had Matt LaFleur when they hired Matt Nagy back in 2018. Matt LaFleur was in my top 3 for guys that I wanted. Matt Nagy was not. So seeing Ben Johnson get hired was extremely exciting for me. I'm not 100% sure that would have happened had they gotten rid of Eberflus in 2023 versus 2024. Were you excited? Did you have Ben Johnson at the top of your want list for this offseason?
Oh, 100%. And that's not revisionist history or anything like that. I mean, he was always the golden goose, the top prize, the top, whatever words you want to say to describe it. The fact that this guy was really essentially the top candidate going back in 2023, and he took his name out of the running for whatever reason. I mean, it seemed like the Washington job was his, and there were a few other interviews that he was a strong candidate for. The fact that he was able to build upon his success from 2023 into 2024 and actually take even a step further, I think, with their offense and maintain it, it just gave me even more hope that this person is the right guy. Because you look back at last year, and I mean last year in 2023, Bobby Slowick was another hot name. He turned CJ Stroud into one of the best rookie quarterbacks that we've seen. The Texans offense was humming, and a year later, he's out of a job. So with offensive coordinators, it is so volatile across the league that if you're able to have maybe, let's say, a flash in the pan year, or you have some sort of success, you're going to get hired as a head coach, and then all bets are off. Yeah, I mean, sure, you may have success, but it's not going to be the same as an OC. If you stay at that coordinator position, a lot of the times you just sort of fall off. And so for the fact that Ben Johnson was able to maintain that success and really just build upon what he already started over the last few years, I think is insane. And the concerns that some people had about his ability to lead a room or be somebody that can, really coach players hard, I think we're really seeing that side come out of him quite a bit at this point already. I loved the just moment where he addressed the entire team of employees. The building was ready for him. They were giving him a round of applause, and he's like, hey, this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard work for all of us, and this is our purpose. Sure, it may have been a setup by the PR team, but he delivered on it at the same time. So,
and don't forget, get back to work.
Get back to work. Exactly. I really like what he's been able to do. So far, he has checked all the boxes at this point in time, and we won't know. I mean, we really won't know until like year 2 or year 3, just how he is as a coach. If he can, not only build success, but maintain success. But you had to take the chance for what he was able to build, where he was able to come from. He was easily the top choice on my list.
If you can give, 1 or 2 words, how would you describe just this overall offseason approach? Without going into details, because we'll get into details of the trades, the free agency, stuff like that. Just like a 1 or 2 overall word approach on how you are feeling about this, transition that we're seeing right now?
It has been systematic and it has been urgent.
I love that answer. That is perfect description. Are you a Ryan Poles supporter? Like at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of people wanted him gone as well. I personally felt like he was getting the short end of the stick with the Matt Eberflus situation. And I'll be out there honest. Like, I don't think he wanted Eberflus. I think that was forced upon him. I like the transition that we've seen from the hands-off approach from George McCaskey and ownership this past transition. Just real quick, where did you fall in that category?
I'm kind of in the middle. Ryan Poles does some really nice things. He also does some not so great things. The thing is, Ryan Poles hasn't exactly wowed me with the moves that he's made. They've been fine moves. I think his draft picks, like Darnell Wright's been good. Caleb Williams shows a lot of promise. Roma Dunze shows a lot of promise. He hasn't drafted a Pro Bowler yet. And you can go back to, within the first 3 years, Ryan Pace, Phil Emery, Jerry Angelo, all of those guys had Pro Bowl players that they had drafted within those first 3 years at this point. Poles has not, even though with the amount of picks that he's had. He's just been kind of fine. But at the same time, we saw a change in philosophy when it came to back in 2017, 2018, when Ryan Pace fired John Fox and he hired Matt Nagy. What happened after that? They got more aggressive. They got more, they took more chances in terms of finding potential playmakers and guys that they could really count on for the future. Sure, there were some missteps in there, but you really could then kind of see that when you get a coach, I think on the second turnaround, it feels like a flip switches for GM sometimes. Like, oh, now I have to do X, Y, and Z to make sure that this team goes well, because clearly what I was doing before hasn't worked. And Ryan Poles, I feel like that switch has been flipped going into this offseason. So if I were to grade him, I'd give him like a B-, C+ maybe. The Caleb Williams trade, phenomenal. Did a great job. A lot of luck came into that as well.
Thank you, Lovie Smith.
Overall pick. Thank you, Lovie Smith. Thank you. God knows how many people you can say for all the different losses and things that had to happen. But yeah, I haven't been wowed yet by a lot of his moves prior to this offseason.
Okay. I think that's a fair response. I mean, I'm a little bit higher on him, I think, than you are. I'd probably give him a solid B. Okay. But yeah, I think that's a completely fair response. All right, let's dive into specifically 2025. We're going to move on to what they started off doing here in March with planes, trades, and free agency. And for those of you who don't understand why I have planes on this graphic, it was a big change that the Chicago Bears made with how they were bringing people in just for, free agency interviews, the coaching staff. They got first-class tickets finally. They flew private a couple times. Like, it wasn't just, you're going to sit and coach, or we'll send a car and bring you. It was legitimately run like a top tier organization. So that's why I felt it fit the graphic. Yep. Specifically the trades though, what did you think? Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, just those two moves alone completely changed the structure of that interior offensive line.
They did. And this is where I kind of get into my, two-word approach, where it was systematic and urgent, because those were clearly the biggest needs that the Bears had on the entire team. Offensive line was massive. Everybody sort of penciled them in for Trey Smith. But once that came off the board, when the Chiefs franchise tagged him with the intention of signing him long-term, they had to pivot. And so what did they do? They made sure they were urgent in their approach process to make sure that they didn't miss out on anyone. And I loved, in 2 days, they replaced 2 of their 5 starters. The Jonah Jackson trade, I think we all kind of could see it potentially coming. He was floated out there as a trade candidate. We knew that the guard situation wasn't very lucrative in free agency aside from Trey Smith. So the fact that they were able to get him for a 6th-round pick, good deal, solid guy. Ben Johnson knows him. There's familiarity there. And I don't think Jackson was as bad last year as sort of he's being made out to be. There was weird circumstances where he was going to play center. He got hurt. They came back. I didn't even think he was that bad at center, but it felt like they removed him for a chemistry issue when it came to Matthew Stafford. So, solid move. We could see it coming. The Joe Thuney move, didn't see it coming at all. I don't know about you. I was actually on a work trip and, on the West Coast. So I'm waking up like when everybody's day's already started, and I'm shocked at the news that I saw. And for a 2026 fourth round pick, clearly still at the top of his game. His 2 All-Pros were coming in the last 2 years. Consistent Pro Bowler, guy who knows what a winning locker room looks like on 2 different teams. You need that experience. I think a lot of, you probably find this out about me, I think a lot in parallels and previous experiences, and especially going back to the Bears, I'm like, this feels like Reuben Brown coming over from the Bills. He was just a dynamo in the 90s. He came to Chicago in the mid 2000s, and he was really, really good even at an older age. So yeah, it was urgent to get ahead of the curve, make sure they did not miss out on anybody in free agency. And now you have Jackson locked up for a couple years, and it sounds like the goal is to get Thuney locked up for the next few years as well. Hopefully that's able to get done. But I was thrilled with the fact that that's how they were able to figure out their offensive line even prior to free agency.
Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, those are the quarterbacks that he blocked for. So let's just hope Caleb Williams follows in that direction.
Yeah.
All right, trades aside. So, we talked about them. Who are the most impactful signings or possibly departures that they had this offseason, in your opinion?
Well, I think you obviously go with Drew Dalman, taking that center position. I'm not the biggest Drew Dalman fan. I think he's fine. He's good. He's overall reliable. I just don't know if he's going to be a top center in the league. He's probably going to be overpaid a little bit. But hey, he solidified a need. Yeah, right. You always do in free agency. I likened it to, hey, you ignored your car for so many years, and now it needs to be completely overhauled. You need to get a new one, and prices are so bad that you're just able to get like a lightly used Honda CR-V. But hey, it's reliable and it's not a bad car. So it was a fine signing. The one that I think is going to be most impactful, believe it or not, is Grady Jarrett. Coming over from the Falcons, very surprising that he was released and scooped up so quickly. With this defensive line, and I want to hear your take on this too. This defensive line, especially last year, but even in 2023 as well, they lacked leadership. And for as good as Montez Sweat is, as highly paid as Montez Sweat is, he's not a vocal leader. And he's kind of admitted that. The coaching staff previously admitted that. And when you have somebody who recently gets paid and then doesn't show up to the voluntary voluntary workouts the first off season after he's gotten his money, look, they're voluntary, but that does kind of send a message. Like, are you really that team leader? And the fact that he wasn't named one of the top captains when there was 10 captains on the team also says something. So I do think they lacked leadership up front, not only production. So the fact that they get one of the best leaders over the last 10 years in the NFL to anchor that interior, to help guys like Gervon Dexter and now Shemar Turner and really bring that group together, I think is going to go beyond just production, but it's going to make that unit much tighter. Who knows how long Grady Jarrett's going to be here if he actually plays out the 3-year contract that he signed, but I think he's going to make a tremendous impact, off the field and probably on the field in 2025.
Yeah, I think on the defensive side of the ball, their leaders are definitely in the defensive backfield, right? Montez Sweat, not a vocal leader. Gervon Dexter coming into his sophomore season, he's not going to be the vocal leader. Grady Jarrett is going to be that guy, and I love the Shemar Turner pick. We'll talk about it when we get to the draft part of it, mainly because the thing that reminds me the most when I watch his film is Grady Jarrett's vicious, violent hands. And I think he's just going to expand upon Shemar Turner's hand technique as well. Andrew Billings, another kind of quiet guy. When you have DeMarcus Walker being your vocal leader, that's a problem, right?
Yes,
that's definitely a problem. We don't have But the one thing I guess we can go back though, even Khalil Mack though was never really a vocal leader. But I felt like he did enough. He did more on the field than Montez Sweat to like where he was like on the field leader, right? Like Montez Sweat, as much as I like him and I like the trade, he's just kind of like a guy.
But who was, so you mentioned Khalil Mack, who was that vocal leader then on the defensive line?
I mean, it was Akeem Hicks.
Exactly. They and that's fine. Like they had that guy who could be that heart and soul of the defense. Didn't have it last year for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the year before. I mean, 100%. This move was more than just about what Grady Jarrett still has left in the tank as a football player. I think you're right. I think his leadership skills is very important here. And I think he'll get at least two. You'll get 2 out of those 3 years out of him, I think, before, he is either decides to retire or they move on from him. That's great. And I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Dayo fan. Like, the signing is fine. I think that again, we talked about Dalman. I think you overpaid for him. It's going to be really interesting to see what Dennis Allen can do because that's another factor that we're going to see here is it's a little bit of a different mindset when it comes to the defensive end position with Dennis Allen than it was with Matt Eberflus. So time will tell, but I'm not like. Let's just say I wasn't like overly excited by the move.
I'm with you. Dayo to me felt like you're paying for upside. You're paying for hopefully this guy has not hit his prime yet, and theoretically shouldn't. But he's just kind of a guy. I was hopeful that they were going to go in a different direction, but at least they did something to get somebody opposite Montez Sweat.
Yeah. All right, let's. We hinted at it already. I think we talked enough about the free agency side of it. Unless there's anybody else you wanted to bring up that stood out to you.
I'll just say one thing because you mentioned departures and I didn't talk about it.
Oh yeah.
I'll just say quickly. I do think that Keenan Allen's departure is going to be something that could be noteworthy when it comes to Caleb Williams because, and I'm actually working on an article that will release eventually in the next week or so. I keep adding to it. It's not perfect yet, but
I'm the same way.
Right? Yeah, I mean, you understand, like especially something that isn't like a timely thing. The premise really was the Keenan Allen trade worth it because it's clear he's not coming back. I think if you're talking winners and losers, the Chargers clearly won with what they were going to get, but Keenan Allen, I felt, was the only wide receiver that Caleb Williams was throwing to that he could actually trust when he was like blanketed coverage. He had the highest passer rating when targeted on the team, better than Rome Odunze, better than DJ Moore. And you just didn't feel like that trust was there completely when it came to Moore or Odunze. So I want to see how that chemistry develops with those two guys now since Allen's gone, because Allen really took Caleb under his wing, like learning the playbook, playing cards together. You didn't see that from DJ Moore, and Rome was still kind of doing the same thing as Caleb, learning as he went along. So that departure, while he wasn't great on the field, Caleb trusted him on the field, and he trusted him off the field too. And I'm just interested to see what that's going to look like without him in the room now.
It's great that you actually brought him up because you talk about Grady Jarrett when it comes to leadership. That's exactly what you got with Keenan Allen last year for Caleb Williams. I mean, how many times did we see those two on the sideline, trying to work out what happened on plays? Like, what do we need to do to change to make things happen? Well, I'm not going to bash on DJ Moore, but DJ Moore just kind of like stood off on his own, sat on his own. It was kind of like the Justin Fields treatment that he would give a lot of times. And I'm a Justin Fields supporter. So those of you who are out there, I know there's a lot of you, Justin Fields truthers, do not come, clawing at my face here. But yeah, definitely was a different feel from Keenan Allen to DJ Moore. And maybe that's why, maybe that's why DJ Moore being rumored now, being on the trade block is out there. I'm going to bring this up. I think I don't even know how to say this. I think it's all fan fiction. It's floated out there now on Twitter, out there, like all over the place. We saw George Pickens get traded from Pittsburgh to Dallas this morning. I'm sorry. DJ Moore being traded from Chicago to anywhere just does not make the same sense as somebody who's still on their rookie deal going to another team. And he just signed a contract. Like, the numbers just don't work. So I'm curious, like, one, are you frustrated with how DJ Moore responded to the situation last year? Do you think that they should be considering moving him now that they do have Odeyingbo and, they drafted Luther Burden? We'll talk about that in a minute too. I don't know. I personally don't see it, but I'd love to get your take.
So to answer your first question with being frustrated last year, I was, and I'm a DJ Moore apologist. I've loved him ever since he came out of college. I was really hoping when he was kind of rumored on the trade block that he would come to the Bears, and sure enough, he did. He's always been a guy who just puts his head down, goes to work, doesn't create drama. So it was very weird that all of this happened.
Yes.
And
it wasn't his first contract, right? Like, it wasn't like he was going from 1 to 2. Like, this was a third contract. So that's the part that really threw me off.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was the coaches. I don't know if it was the quarterback. Maybe things going on in practice. I think we saw a lot of it early in maybe early and halfway through the season. Maybe I was just so beaten down. I wasn't paying attention to DJ Moore's antics in November, December, just because of everything else happening and crumbling. But I did think it wasn't as much of an issue after that. But yeah, it was frustrating because you are a captain. You are looked up to from your peers. And when you're walking off the field, whatever, like if you're just showing that you're not necessarily, fully involved, and you may be, but sometimes perception matters. And, I think at this time there were a few moments that it did. So yeah, frustration. But I always did try to give him the benefit of the doubt because he is a reserved person. He does lead on the field. You just wanted to see a little bit more of that. Now for the trade part, I think it's people just seeing the moves that have been made and saying, well, this clearly means that DJ Moore is going to be on his way out, or Cole Kmet's going to be on his way out with Colston Loveland. And I got to say, I think that could be the case next year. Like, I think I tweeted out, I'm like, the Luther Burden and Colston Loveland picks make for some very interesting questions in 2026. It doesn't mean anything in 2025. Why would a new head coach who has not gotten his hands on this offense lose playmakers that he knows have been capable and have been productive in the NFL? And now Ben Johnson may be a little frustrated with DJ Moore. We don't know. Maybe this is kind of a message at the same time, but he's not going to get traded this offseason. Things happen quickly in the NFL, and I think if we're in this position next year and there's a little bit more rumors, then we can talk about it. But for 2025, DJ Moore is going to be on the team. Stop with the fan fiction. Stop saying he's available. And same with Cole Kmet. But we'll have a conversation 365 days from now.
Yeah, so, next year, definitely. Personally, like, I'm, especially with Cole Kmet, like, I think 2027 is more realistic for me. I think Poles and Ben Johnson are looking at this very long term. You have a micro philosophy and you have a macro philosophy, and I think they're looking at this as a GM. You have to look at it both ways. Even if your job is on the line, you still have to look at it both ways. And I think Ryan Poles is doing a pretty good job of looking at it from a macro level. Like, look, we're putting the cart before the horse here, but Luther Burden was just a BPA pick. Like, he shouldn't have been there in the second round. You took him because he was, and you took him because the running backs that you wanted didn't fall. It just made sense. And look, in 2 years, it's probably likely, I think he's going to be 29, 30, DJ Moore. So it's going to be likely that he's going to be just out the door anyway. Same with Cole Kmet. Unfortunately, I don't see him getting a third contract. He's not that good of a tight end, and I'm a huge Cole Kmet fan. Everyone who listens to the Hallis Huddle knows this. Everyone who follows me on Twitter should know this because I'm constantly bashing anyone who says otherwise. But yeah, I just think it's a long-term move. I think you're right about that. And whether it's next year or the year after, it's definitely not this year. All right. Before we move on to talk about the NFL draft, I do want to just shout out the channel. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave comments. look, I love the comment section. I will be in touch with you within 24 to 48 hours most of the time. We love to build this community and continue that conversation going forward. So please hit that comment section. Let us know what you like about Brendan Sugrue's thoughts here. This isn't going to be a one-time guest appearance, I don't think. So, we have a few other guests in the works, maybe someone else from his former podcast. I haven't reached out yet, but one that I know I definitely do want to get on here. Like button, subscribe button, leave a comment. And if you're not subscribed, you definitely want to subscribe anyway, because last episode we hinted at it. They were going to be doing a giveaway for this one right here. Okay. Brian Urlacher, custom photo from the They Are Who We Thought They Were game. This is not something that is just, this is a sideline photographer where we got this photo from. So if you are interested, you have to be a subscriber. More details about that giveaway will be coming in the next few weeks. But right now, just subscribe. It's not hard. Not hard. All right, moving on. All right, bare necessities. Now, they went out, they fixed the offensive line in free agency. Or at least we feel like they fixed the offensive line in free agency, at least on paper. It looks, when Braxton Jones becomes your fifth best offensive lineman, that's a good thing. Going into, and I know they added Dayo, they added Grady Jarrett. Going into the draft, what did you felt were the biggest needs?
It still felt like tackle. It definitely felt like running back. Tight end kind of could be a need just because of the lack of production or the lack of explosive production from Cole Kmet. And then, defensive end as well. So there were opportunities that the Bears could have gotten, but I don't know how you feel. This feels like the draft that got away. Like just players, pieces, positions that were picked just ahead of the Bears that they sort of maybe got the rug pulled out from under them a little bit. But, I would say those four positions were definitely like the biggest need in no particular order.
Yeah. I had all four of those. I also had safety in there. I felt like safety is a need.
Should have said that too.
Mainly just because, look, I like Elijah Hicks and I like Jonathan Owens, but I just don't trust them to be able to fill, half a season should Jaquan Brisker go down again. And Kevin Byard's 31? So it's like,
yeah. Well, and Rob, none of them are under contract next year. None of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you're going to re-sign Brisker this year after you just signed Kyler Gordon. So yeah, it's definitely was in need. But like you said, the draft kind of just didn't get to them in certain areas where I felt like it could have. But also I just felt like this draft class was, I don't know, being at that 10 spot was really rough. It was really rough because there were a few top names. I'm a huge Abdul Carter fan. I love Travis Hunter, but you were never going to get them. And I'm not as big of Will Campbell fan as some people. I think I had him 7th on my list in my top 10 rankings. But like, there wasn't a true top left tackle in this draft. Like there was like a Joe Alt, a couple years ago. It just felt like there wasn't anything that like truly excited me. And then you get to like 10, right? Or 8-ish. And then it was kind of like, well, everyone kind of just falls into the same category from like 8 to like 60. Yeah. And it was just kind of, who do you want? And I think, we touched on it when I talked about Luther Burden. The running backs, obviously there's rumors that they were trying to trade up to get ahead of New England and get Travion Henderson. I think that's real. I think that's real. We did a what if draft episode a few days ago. And my co-host Bob Weiss did a draft where what if they were able to make that trade up and get Travion Henderson? And then he still got Luther Burden at 41 because it just the way it fell. I mean, it was only 2 picks later, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just felt like every time they were thinking about, look, they had pick 109. And then it was like some of those running backs win again. And it's just like, really? So then they moved back again. And it just, you're right. It just felt like every time they were trying to make a move, it just didn't go the way that they wanted. I do think they really wanted Colston Loveland though. And let's move on to that slide. But like, welcome to Loveland. I think he truly was, I had him ranked 11th on my Chicago Bears big board. So just outside of that top 10. So I wasn't like, when the pick happened, I was shocked because, everyone had Tyler Warren, and like, I had him obviously too higher on my board, but like, I think we fell in love with the idea of Ben Johnson just really doing those like fun trick type plays, and Warren fit that mold a lot better. But in reality, like, give me Laporta, and I feel like that's more what Loveland is anyway.
I agree. And to go back to your earlier point, when you get into that like 8 to 16 range, I started to feel like every single prospect had a nitpick that I could say, and maybe more than a nitpick, like, okay, he could do this, but, and then, there's concerns there. And I still felt the same way about Colston Loveland when he came off the board. Again, shocked as well, even though I was fully prepared that the Bears were going to take a tight end. I didn't love Tyler Warren. I get nervous when somebody doesn't really do a whole lot, and then they have one big season of production, because he basically was the Penn State offense. And he was really good. I, of course, remember Notre Dame being able to shut him out on their way to getting to play in the title, being a big Notre Dame fan. But so I was surprised, but then, because I had watched Colston Loveland, but I was in that mode. I'm like, I don't know if the Bears are going to pick him. It just doesn't feel like that. But the things that jumped off the page for me, or jumped off the highlight reel, was the fact that his route running is so far advanced than most tight ends coming out of college. He's so smooth. He's so big. He gets in and out of his cuts very quickly. He gets upfield super fast. He's a natural catcher of the ball. Like, you see a lot of tight ends, like, they just body catch it. He's going up and getting it, actually using his hands. I'm very, very excited about that, and to see what he does in year one, because usually you see tight ends have that slower start. We saw it with Cole Kmet, and I know they're two different tight ends, but the fact that Cole Kmet, to me, and I'm a Cole Kmet defender like you, but I mean, let's be real. He was such a clunky route runner the first couple years. I mean, he was falling down. He couldn't track a ball to save his life. It was very hard to watch. And it took him a few years to become a good route runner in this league. Colston Loveland is so far ahead of where he was coming out, and even the first few years. So the fact that he was lining up on DBs and, beating them one-on-one, inside of the field, was very exciting to watch. So I really like that, what he can do. I like the fact that both he and Kmet complement each other. He can get eased into the offense, being with pass catchers like Odeyingbo and Moore, as well as Burden. So at this point, you kind of have to look at Ben Johnson and be like, hey man, you've worked with all these toys before. Like, you made Jameson Williams into a bona fide stud when I didn't think that was possible. And Sam Laporta, I mean, you see a lot of him in Loveland. So by all means, I trust you with this pick. And in a weaker draft class like this, like you said, I'm totally fine going with the upside pick, because Colston Loveland is such an upside pick in this class.
Yeah. So I was a big Micah Williams fan, who ended up going the next pick to San Francisco. So I was all trenches. And I did a what if draft where I actually didn't present it on the podcast, but I briefly talked about it, where I actually went Micah Williams at 10. I actually took Mason Taylor in the second round. So I still got what I feel is a good upside tight end. Maybe not to the point where, his route running isn't where Loveland's is. But what I liked about both of those players, Micah Williams and Colston Loveland, is that they were still young, right? Like, you talked about, like, if, and I'm blanking on the guy's name on Twitter who did this. Maybe it'll come to me, but he was putting it like a comparison of Tyler Warren and Loveland. But then he's like, look, you guys also need to include their ages and when they were doing this. And it was like his 2020 season was outpacing where Warren was at 2020, or his 22 season. And then it's like, when he got to that, he just turned 21. So his 2024 season, their 2024 season, like, it's a 2.5 year difference between those two in age. So it's like, was Tyler Warren just, outpacing people because he was the bigger, stronger guy? Like, to be honest, like, you develop at fast pace between like 20 and 25 physically. So like, it could be that he just had that mentality, that physicality that he was able to, overtake guys. So that worried me as well as the 1 year wonder. But yeah, I think the upside part here, like you said, that's the key is like you go best player available. If he was that high on their board and there's rumors that people are trying to move up for him, then it just made sense to me. Did you you touched on Jameson Williams, so let's talk Luther Burden because he's kind of Jameson Williams 2.0 as far as diva goes, according to rumors. Apparently they played high school football together as well, but I don't know. Like things feel different with Burden already. Like he didn't get drafted in the first round. What did he do? He went and worked out like that. Yeah. I feel like Jameson Williams would have went to like the casino. I don't know.
Oh man, no, I'll place bets. I think I'm going to go before pick number 39. I think it can. Is there rules against betting on the NFL draft? No, I know that was that was the most shocking. I don't know how you feel. I haven't felt shocked like that from a high Bears pick since Mitch Trubisky. I just did not see it coming. I think everybody else you could say, oh yeah, that was, somebody who probably would have happened. But, he was, he kind of like, Tyler Warren a little bit, he was Missouri's offense and he was moved around in a ton of different areas. Really, really good value in the second round. Good rusher too. If we need a new RB1, like he had 115 yards on 9 carries last year and a few touchdowns. So why not give that a try? But no, I like the fact that he does. Of course, he reminds me a lot of DJ Moore with his ability to work in short space, quick out routes, gets upfield quick. He's pretty good at the deep ball too. I mean, I was impressed with how he's able to beat defenders off, and he's got decent speed. I don't know about the diva aspect. I think it's just maybe a byproduct of being that guy on an otherwise not so great offense. I think when he gets in this room with the amount of playmakers around him, and especially let's talk about the coach here, being coached by Antoine Randall. That's not gonna. That's a guy that's not gonna put up with BS. He clearly wanted him, and I'm sure you've seen the video where Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles are talking to him, and Antoine's giving him like the hug, like this is it, this is our guy. Super, super cool to see. So I trust the development of Burden with Antoine Randall L. And I'm very interested. I don't know the answer yet. I want to see how he's going to be utilized. Is he going to be kind of on specific packages as that wide receiver 3? What's his route tree going to look like initially? Because I do think it's not as refined as somebody like Rome Odunze's coming out, obviously. But very, very, very good pick considering that they couldn't get the running back. I don't mind loading up on pass catchers. And like I said, there's questions in 26 and 27, but hey, let's enjoy 25 for getting all these players in and creating mismatches with an offensive guru that knows how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this year it does feel like there's a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of egos to keep in check. But I think, Ben Johnson's proving to us already that he's the guy to do it. And what's perfect about Loveland, what's perfect about Burden is they don't have to be the guys to start, right? Like Loveland's going to be the tight end too. It's going to be Cole Kmet. But he's going to be on the field enough to see enough action, just like we saw. And then we're going to see, Rome Odunze last year as wide receiver 3. We're going to see very similar situation here now, I feel like, for Burden. So there's plenty to go around. And they did not throw the ball as much last year as I think they're going to under, obviously, Ben Johnson. So lots and lots of things to like here. The next 2 picks, they traded down, which I think was the right move to trade back from 41. But they went trenches with the next 2 picks. You got Ozzy Trapilo, who most people just project as a right tackle, but they've already come out and said, no, look, he's going to compete at left tackle, even though he doesn't have the length, the prototypical length the NFL likes. If you haven't, please go back. Gosh, a month and a half. We did a whole thing on left or arm length amongst left tackles, right tackles, even their backups, where they were drafted. I mean, it was very in-depth. If you guys want to check that out, if you haven't, go back and find that episode for all of new listeners, new subscribers. And then Shemar Turner, we already touched on him, but what did you think about these two picks? I felt like they were the right moves at the time, again, because running backs just did not fall to them. Outside of, I'm a big Caleb Johnson fan, and I would have liked to seen him in Chicago.
I am too. And I can't remember because I'm not looking at it. I think he went off the board by the time that the Bears were picking again. Like, they obviously could have had him at 41, but when they traded down, I think
he actually went in the 60s.
He's still on the board?
Yes.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did want Caleb Johnson. I was really hoping for that. But I can never complain with an offensive line pick or a defensive line pick because that's
Right.
where that's where you're going to have the most, you're going to set yourself up for the most success. Didn't know a lot about Ozzy Trapilo. Not going to lie, when, he was picked and then started scouting him a little bit. I love the frame that he has overall, like just this massive dude. And it seems like when he's able to lock onto a guy, he's not letting go. Like,
right.
That guy's not getting past, but I wonder about the lateral movement, like how quick he is, because, it seems like speed edge rushers could get around him fairly quickly. We'll see how that goes. But I trust Ryan Poles in the sense that if he thinks that, with this new coaching staff, Dan Ruchar, who's done a ton of great work throughout his career, he thinks that Ozzy Trapilo can be a left tackle, then at this point in time, so do I. You are in a weird spot with the Braxton Jones injury, so it's good for him to get those reps. But at the same time, if you don't feel comfortable with him or Karan Amagaji at this point, then you're really banking on a healthy Braxton Jones to anchor that line. And now there's just a little more pressure there. So, but overall, I don't hate it. I was kind of up and down on it initially, but I think getting a guy that size, I forget who tweeted out to during the draft, but somebody tweeted out like 6'8" tackles in the NFL, and all of them were Pro Bowl caliber players. So I know that size doesn't always indicate what the performance is going to be.
Right.
But I feel like that's a nice sample size that you can say. As far as Shemar Turner, I didn't love the pick, and I'm not going to lie. I think he is somebody who is a good finisher. He's good at cleaning up. He does have that high motor. He does have those, like you said, the violent hands where he's always working. He's always moving, which is what you want to see. But I don't think he's been great on initial contact. Now, I was mainly watching his tape as a defensive tackle. I'd really have to go back. I have not done that yet, or when he was a defensive end, because I don't know how Dennis Allen's going to use him. We know he likes to move guys around, and he's really stacking this lineup with versatile players. So if he's at the defensive tackle position, I wonder what that's going to look like at the NFL. Does he present some opportunity on the outside? Perhaps. You love that he is that type of guy with that motor. I just wonder about his initial burst and his initial ability to kind of get past blockers right off the snap, because I feel like, especially at the NFL, he might get locked up a little bit. But at least we know that he's always going to be gunning no matter where the play goes.
Yeah, I think I'll touch on Shemar Turner real quick. I think he's very similar to like DeMarcus Walker. He's going to be kind of inside outside, but I think if you go back and if you get a chance, go back and watch the 2023 film where he is playing end. He did play better in that position, I feel like. But then they had Nick Scorton, they had Shamar Stewart. I mean, that defensive line at Texas A&M was pretty stacked. All three of those guys went within the first 50 picks, 60 picks.
Yes.
So you're right, though. I think he's better suited outside. He doesn't have that elite get off, and I think that's probably why they tried moving him inside. But you're right. Yes, his hands are moving constantly. He does have the high motor, and he was able to finish just, at times because he's consistent and plays break down. But if he gets eaten up, he struggles. He struggles against double teams. But when he's on the outside, he's not going to, if he can work on his burst. Look, I know, on CHGO, and now Corey Wooten said, look, that's something that you just usually can't improve upon. I'm going to take his word for it because, look, he played in the NFL. He was a very good defensive lineman. But then I watched Javon Dexter, and I feel like his get-off got way better between 2023 and 2024. So I think it could potentially be improved upon. And I think Turner will end up playing more on the outside than he will on the inside. And I think he'll be more impactful on the outside than he will be on the inside. But that's just how I see it. And he's 290, 286, 290. So I mean, he's definitely fits that mold of Dennis Allen's outside, and he's a good run defender as well. So another thing that he keys in on Dennis Allen does as a defensive coordinator. The Trapilo pick, look, we actually talked about him prior on Hallis Huddle to him being drafted on a couple episodes, and I view him, and I still view him to like this to today. I want him to come in and be competitive against Braxton Jones. I see him, you talked about it. He's got a great anchor, and he showed it at the Senior Bowl, but he doesn't have the arm length on those faster guys where I'm worried if he's playing on the left side. He's playing on the blind side, and you got a fast guy. He doesn't have that arm length to just kind of get that push so that you can set yourself up to anchor. And that's where I'm a little bit concerned about him being a starting left tackle. But I think he's your swing. I mean, I think he's your backup. He's the guy who can come in and play right tackle, play left tackle. And he's basically your Matt Pryor, but I think he's better than Matt Pryor, and he's a rookie. So,
yeah. And unlike, I mean, I'll also say kind of like Karan Amagaje, another big guy with a big frame. Yeah. I know his arms are longer, but the issue with Karan, he was hurt all last year rehabbing. He missed out on a ton of reps. And when he was finally ready, he was kind of thrown into the wolves. Trapilo can hit the ground running and get started and kind of get his feet wet while it's early. So I do think at this point, the best case scenario, well, I don't know if it's the best case scenario, but I would be okay if Braxton Jones still remains a left tackle in this season. You have Ozzy Trapilo as that swing tackle. You can trust him, because we know injuries happen. And then you can kind of see, okay, can this guy move somewhere? Do the Bears then move Darnell Wright to left tackle at some point, assuming he continues his development? Yeah, there's a lot of questions there, but I totally understand him, being a swing tackle. That makes a lot of sense.
And we talked about safety, but Braxton Jones isn't under contract for next year either. So no matter what happens, they need to figure out left tackle soon. The one other, real quick, we'll hit these last things because we're getting a little bit long here, but the 109 pick, when that pick was traded, I lost my mind. I was texting both Bob and Justin, the other co-hosts of this show, and I'm like, at some point, you just have to make a pick. And you went from 109 all the way back to 132. And look, I am not a Ruben Hippolyte fan. I think everyone who listens to the show knows I think it was a horrible decision. I feel like he's obviously too small to play linebacker consistently. I think they see him as a will. Some people think that he could play safety. I personally don't see it because I feel like his coverage skills aren't good enough. So I felt like it was a huge reach, and it was just an RAS pick, which screams Ryan Poles to me. I felt, my buddy Justin, who does the show with us, he did say, look, if Kyle Monangai, who I had, I think a 6th round pick on, if he went in the 4th and Hippolyte was your 7th round pick, would you feel better about it? And I'm like, yes, I would, but that's not what happened. So I don't. And at 109, again, running backs just didn't fall the way that they were supposed to. So I understood them moving back. But when I look at where they could have taken, again, I'm going to say Caleb Johnson with one of those picks at what was it, 56 or what was Turner, 62, something like that. If they took him at one of those picks, then you went defensive end or defensive tackle. Guess who was there at 109? Jack Sawyer, Kyle Kennard. I mean, there were so many defensive ends. Yeah, so many defensive ends that I felt like you could have went there. As much as I like the Shemar Turner pick, look, people were off on me because I was a Jack Sawyer proponent and I had him going into the 2nd round. I mean, Pittsburgh knows what they're doing on defense, and they took him.
Yeah. I immediately when that pick came out, I was like, that's such a Pittsburgh pick. It really makes me upset. And I'm completely with you. I will say, to play devil's advocate, at least on the trade, they did get back the 4th that they, not necessarily the actual 4th, but they got back a 4th for 2026. So I think that is a significant investment in the future that was good. But you're right. Like, why not take the best player available at that point? Because you are still so high up in the 4th round that you can get like an impactful player with those edge players available. I understand that Cam Scatterbo goes off the board 4 picks earlier, and clearly that was a guy that you were looking at, or it was Tootin, one of the two. But to then go for a linebacker who, I'm sorry, just it doesn't seem like he has the natural instinct to play linebacker. He's just got speed. He just doesn't know how to use it. I mean, and it felt like a Joel Iwubenigwe pick. It felt like, okay,
Yes.
you're replacing Jack Sanborn with a guy who's faster but also doesn't know how to play linebacker. Oh, and you picked him in the 4th round versus getting him as an undrafted free agent. Like, stuff like that. Like, the process does matter. I understand what you're talking about if you get the running back in the 4th round and you get Hippolyte in the 7th, but process has to account for something. So yep. I think it's okay to be critical of the process and the picks in which they were taken.
All right. Well, we won't touch on the other picks because I just think they're kind of, when I look at the other guys, they're depth pieces, guys who you hope either help on special teams, which maybe Hippolyte can do, or guys that you hope you can develop over the next year or two. But there is one guy that I do want to talk about, and that's Kyle Monangai. Mm-hmm. Look, running back, you said was a need before the draft. I felt like it was a need. I got into an argument with Greg Gabriel on Twitter about the situation.
I'm sorry.
This was during the draft. He's like, look, clearly running back isn't a need. I'm like, no, like running back is still a need. And he's like, well, they didn't take one. And I'm like, so then as soon as they took one in the 7th round, I was like, see? Because in my comment, I was like, look, I don't care where they take one, but they need one. So do you, and look, someone else pulled the numbers on him and put it on Twitter too. I got to remember to write these names down so I can give them credit on the show. But Nick Whalen, by the way, was the guy that I couldn't think of earlier, who posted the stuff about the Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland situation. But in this case, it was comparing Iowa State numbers for David Montgomery before he was drafted and Kyle Monangai's numbers before he was drafted out of Rutgers. And they're very similar type of players. But what I love about him, I don't know if you've seen it, I'm sure you have, is the blocking video.
The blocking video was sick.
Like, yeah, that to me,
doing the dirty work.
You proving you're going to be on the field just for that reason alone.
Yeah. I mean, no, that did make me smile after seeing it, because I got to say, I was very just mid on it. In the David Montgomery production, or the comparisons, at least production wise, are nice. I mean, Montgomery was such a more physical runner in college. It was insane. Monangai still, can bounce off tacklers, but it just feels like he's a guy. And I think for a 7th round pick, if you get somebody who's just a guy and he can be like a decent RB2, that's not a bad thing. Solid production. I mean, the fact that, he had 1,200 yards in back-to-back seasons, would have been the Big Ten rushing leader if it not been for Caleb Johnson. You definitely need to account for it. And he did have some pretty nice runs. I think I was watching his tape against Ohio State last year, and he wore down the defense, which was nice. Like, he started to get going after, maybe like 5 to 10 reps or carries, excuse me. But I think he's kind of a guy. I'm not like overly excited about it. I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but it just feels like he's somebody who will, get maybe like 10 carries a game, maybe take over that Roschon Johnson role and kind of get the hard yards. But I'm personally not expecting too much out of him. But hey, if he surprises and we're looking at somebody who, can be a good complement to DeAndre Swift in 2025, and then we're talking about potentially being that bell cow beyond, that'd be awesome. But I'm not expecting it.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up the running style, because that's something we haven't touched on here on the House Huddle. Yeah, they are different for sure, because look, when David Montgomery was drafted, I still to this day view him as a bigger, stronger Maurice Jones-Drew, like a guy who can take a hit and just like the contact balance in the way he moves and like spins consistently, Monunga is not that. He's going to hit you and then bounce off of you if he doesn't go down and keep going, but it's not as pretty. It's not as pretty at all. So I definitely need to give David Montgomery his props on how he did run the football. But it doesn't matter anyway, because look, you're a Notre Dame fan. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Jeremiah Love's just going to be the running back in 2026.
There you go. Yeah, and you see all the mock drafts already for 2026, and the Bears are picking like 18th or 19th, and Jeremiah Love's already there. I'm like, okay, well, on one hand, awesome. On the other hand, clearly the running back situation is still an issue.
Clearly, but then also it's like we just saw Ashton Genty go what? 6? And then where did Omarion Hampton go? Like, is Love really going to fall to 18 if he's the top running back in the next draft class? I don't feel that confident about it.
By the way, and I know he shared this, but Jacob Infante reposted one of his old, like, early 2025 mock drafts from like May of 2024.
Yeah.
And the fact that he had like Abdul Carter at 20, he had Ashton Genty in the 3rd round, he had Armand Membu in the 7th round.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this guy, like, he got some big players for the Bears, like 4 guys going in the top 20, but man, it's crazy.
That's insane. But it also shows you just how drastically like year over year changes when people really start to harness in and focus on draft film. Because I don't know about you, but like I don't watch a lot of college football prior to December. And then like December comes, and then that's when I like dive into film. I have a Discord that I'm a part of that like puts out all 22 film for college tape. So like I just go in and I just watch all the offensive split. You can watch all the offense or you can watch all the defense of different games, and I'll go in and do that. And that's how I watch my film, but I don't start until December. And that's when I really dive in. And I won't get done with my draft analyses until probably like mid-March going into April. And that's when I get into it. So I'm not, and I don't truly watch. Like I see players when I'm watching film, but I don't have audio because I'm watching all 22. So like half the time I mispronounce guys' names or I don't know who they are, and I'll just remember numbers and I'll write numbers down for my notes for the following year. And it's like, oh, this guy stood out. I need to find out who he is. And I'll find out he's not even in this draft class. So it's like, okay, I'll put it off. But I don't, props to Jake Infante, because he literally will, like, he could tell you right now, guys, for like the 2027 draft.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, for me, like I do watch college football, but I try to teach, like, especially with the work that we do, like pro football feels like so much work because we're like scouting ahead of watching different teams. Bears games are a whole nother story. It just feels like its own thing. College football, I can kind of turn my brain off and just be like, I'd like watching this football with no, like, aside from Notre Dame, I just don't have like rooting allegiances. I want to see good games. I want to see good players, and I'll take mental notes on who's performing well. Like last year, for example, when Mason Taylor was going off, when LSU was playing USC, I was like, hey, this tight end's really good. And then, kind of kept, putting his name out there. And then sure enough, he's one of the top tight ends coming out. Like it's like you make those mental notes throughout the season. And then once you start actually going into like player analysis, watching specific players, whether it's all 22 or highlights, then you kind of put that puzzle together. Like, oh yeah, I like that guy like before. And now I'm, watching him in a different light.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I need to start doing it. Just watching it for fun. I started, my kids are now getting old enough. I have 3 kids, but I have 2 boys, one's 13 and one's 11, and they have the college football 25 games. So like we've been playing that. So like I've been getting into it a little bit more now ahead of time because I'm playing with guys. Right. But I think like you, I think that's a great thought process, is just like, cause look, all I do is watch Notre Dame games and that's it. Like, and I don't even watch all of them. I only watch the ones that are on when I can. My kids play sports and I coach. So like my Saturdays are booked. So it's tough, but, and I'll watch the college football playoffs, obviously, but That's a good point, and I think I'm going to make a mental note for 2025 to get into just watching football, to just enjoy football and not constantly like analyze it.
Let me give you a piece of advice, because this is my favorite thing to do. It's late Saturday night. I don't go out much anymore because I'm an old man. I'm sure you're probably the same way, like, not
Yep.
going to the bars as much. Watching those, like, it used to be like Pac-12, but like watching the late games, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock with like a nice drink and just really relaxing when all of the other stuff has happened. It is just the best. Like, you're sort of preparing for that, NFL Sunday, but you can relax and unwind with the final few games of the night, especially if it's a big game, SEC, Big Ten. So I recommend the primetime games, especially because there's not as much going on. And you usually get great football. Well, when the kids go to bed.
Exactly. So look, I'm not going to give away where we live, but we live relatively close. I have a 120-inch screen projector in my basement. So one of these days, we'll just have to hang out on a Saturday and watch football.
There you go. I'm in.
All right. All right. Let's just quickly touch on 2025 expectations. Are the Bears going to hibernate, or are they going from hibernation and getting into the hunt? What are we thinking here? I know it's early. Schedule releases next week? Rookies report to camp next week. So I mean, it's a long ways away. A lot of things can happen, but what do you think? Are they going to be competitive this year?
They are going to be competitive. I can't say that they're going to make a playoff berth because of the conference they're in, as well as the schedule. Their road schedule is so brutal. No matter how you look at it, whatever happens with the placement of the games next week, it's really, really tough. So you're looking at, especially you're looking at a tough road ahead. When it comes to just the opponents they're playing. But look, we saw, like, with Ben Johnson taking a Detroit team that could not win a game in 2021, and then in 2022 making a late push at the end of the year to like getting close to 500. That was a very, very quick change, and I think he can do that with the pieces in place in Chicago. We might be looking at a tough September and October, but I do think as the season turns, as the chemistry grows, that everybody starts to gel. This team, here's the popular phrase you'll hear: the Bears are a team that nobody will want to play in November, December. They're going to be, at the very least, they are going to be those upset teams looking to dash playoff hopes if they are not going to be going to the playoffs. I truly believe that at a minimum. So we're probably looking at like I think at worst like 7-10, and then maybe at best like a 10-7. I feel like that's always a chalk answer this time of year. But I think the schedule is going to be tough, but they're going to really find their footing as the season goes on.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. I think the way you described it there, they're going to be the team that people don't want to play in November and December, is like perfect. Do you have any expectations for Caleb Williams specifically this year? Look, he came off of what many people complained about, but ended up being statistically a pretty solid rookie quarterback season, arguably the best rookie quarterback season we've seen here in Chicago. Where his
not arguably.
Okay. Yes, 100%. I'm sorry, Rex Grossman. But like 35% completion downfield, right? Like that to me, that's got to improve. There's certain things that I want to see, but I'm not going to like, oh my God, why did we get rid of Justin Fields again type of situation. If things don't go perfectly. And how do you feel?
No, I'm not going to do that either. There's no reason to. He hasn't thrown a pass in a year and a half in Chicago, and we'll move on. Like, please stop bringing up Justin Fields when it comes to the Chicago Bears. I think Colin Cowherd put it best, believe it or not. I'm not even joking. When he said, we're going to know within the first 4 to 5 weeks if Caleb Williams is the guy under Ben Johnson. Like, even if the wins don't come, you see those clutch moments, you see those big plays. I think because and I'm sure you felt the same way in 2022 early on with Justin Fields. I think all of us kind of got that uncertain feeling like, ooh, this isn't going as well as we thought. Like there's a lot of issues here. But at the same time, Ben Johnson wanted to work with Caleb Williams. He's talked about it. Caleb wants to work with Ben Johnson. There is a mutual respect there. I think that with how he's been able to get the most out of his quarterbacks, he's going to do that with Caleb. If you're asking for a stat line, I think if he stays healthy, and he was able to do it last year, I do think we see that 4,000 yard passer mark finally broken. And I'm not somebody who usually predicts that. Like last year, everybody was saying, I think Caleb's going to break it. I think he's going to have the 4,000. I was like, absolutely not. I was predicting like 3,400 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, and got a lot closer to that than 4,000. So this year, I actually do believe that it happens, and we do see all of the potential start to rise up, and he's not considered anything like a bust. And truly, he did have a top 5 quarterback season in Chicago Bears history. I know that's not saying that much, but no Bears quarterback has ever thrown for 3,500 yards, more than 20 touchdowns, and less than 10 interceptions. And Caleb Williams did it in his rookie year. I think that's something to be celebrated.
Yeah, we weren't very practical with our wins losses on this show last year, but that was one area that I was very practical on. Was I didn't expect him to break the 4,000 mark either. We had him, I think we predicted around 3,800 yards if he played the full 17 games. I think you're right. I think that he's either not going to do it or he's going to do it. And if he doesn't do it though, that's a stupid way of saying it, but like, if he doesn't do it, it's going to be either 1, he got hurt, or 2, then they need to look at a new quarterback, because I feel like the excuses are gone. Like, I think this team, the organization is moving in the right direction, and he has all the tools. And you brought up Justin Fields in 2022. Like, the difference that we see with Caleb Williams is he puts the team on his back and puts them in places to win in the fourth quarter, and that's something we did not see consistently with Justin Fields. I have very high expectations, but look, same thing. Like, he's a sophomore quarterback. We have this issue as NFL fans and NFL analysts of wanting the Chicago Bears, or any quarterback, to just instantly like take off, and not everyone develops at the same pace. So if it's going to take him a year or two, because you go back to like the 90s, guys didn't even play for the first few years, right? I mean, so I'm hoping that he proves all the haters wrong. That's my expectation, and I'm hoping he breaks that 4,000 mark. That's my expectation. I don't expect him to play at MVP level, which I think ESPN had put an article out that's not out of that territory. But I think he's going to play at a Pro Bowl type level.
Yeah. I mean, it's the NFC is getting, we'll see. The quarterback dynamic could be changing there. I mean, Jalen Hurts, Jane Daniels, Baker Mayfield, obviously, Jared Goff, we'll see what he does. He could definitely play at that Pro Bowl level. But you're right. I love the fact that you brought up that he actually does finish games, and he does, when crunch time, the Washington game, the Minnesota game, the Packers game, both Packers games, really, the fact that he was able to come back in both, even only got the win in one of them, but the others were not his fault by any means. I think he has that clutch factor, and that alone is so huge when it comes to quarterbacks. It's almost like if you can have that clutch factor, the rest can follow.
100%. All right. Final thoughts. Let us know where we can find you. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but where can we find your work? What you have, upcoming, cooking. I know the podcast, unfortunately, I listened to that last episode. It was bittersweet. Yeah. You guys put on a really good show. You guys built a really good community over there. And it was sad to see that you guys decided to part ways. And I hope at some point you guys bring it all back together.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It was really fun. But we just kind of we're at a crossroads and we had to, pick one lane or the other. So, but hey, it was such a good time, and I'm still obviously doing podcasts on, other shows, and who knows, I might have my own show again, or we might do something down the road again. Who knows? I'm just kind of enjoying, hopping on as a guest. But yeah, I'm always doing Bears Wire stuff. I'll have a lot of things coming out for the schedule in the next week. I'm working on a couple pieces now. I teased the Keenan Allen piece that I'm doing. Also, kind of like looking at what Cole Kmet's role is going to be. And I teased this on Twitter, but you can go back to maybe in the last 15 to 20 years to get a blueprint from the Bears to see what I think that this team is going to do with him and Colston Loveland. And yeah, just, as the schedule releases, we'll have predictions. My favorite thing, I'll plug this because I love doing it every year. I review like a critic, like every time the Bears put out their schedule release video. I dissect it. I'm a marketing professional by my day job. And so while other people may not like it, I absolutely love the teams that put out the creative schedule videos, and I will critique them as much as I can. So that's a piece I'm looking forward to doing this time next week.
So are the Chargers going to win again?
Probably. I did. So I ranked them in 2023. I ranked from 1 to 32, all of the videos.
Okay.
It was so exhausting. And I told Alyssa, because she's like, are you going to do that next year or for 2024?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. That was a lot of work. I was watching a lot of videos. and
some of them suck.
Yeah, some of them did suck. I'm like, I wasted my time for this.
Yeah.
But a few people have already asked, like, are you going to do it again for 2025? So I might bring it back. So yes, the Chargers will probably be in the top, at least the top 3, because they're so good at what they do.
I was going to say, if maybe not the full 32, just do at least a top 10, right?
I should do top 10. Good point. Yeah.
And Tennessee has picked up, I feel like, their game over the last couple of years. They're the ones that did the video of like where they interview people, and then they brought that girl back and they ask them like random people on the streets to like tell them what their team names are based off of the logo. Was that Tennessee?
It was. They did so well in 2023, but then they just
tried to do it again.
Yeah, and I was like, it wasn't the same. You should have stopped while you were ahead.
No. But Chicago's was pretty good last year with the Ferris Bueller type-esque feel, I felt like. Where did you have them ranked? Because I didn't see that article. I'm going to have to go find it.
So I didn't do it for 24. I did it for 23 when they did the Bear parody.
Yeah,
that one, I think I had them within the top like 6 because that one was my favorite that they've done. I said like the Ferris Bueller one was like a solid B. I thought the premise was good. DJ Moore's acting sucks.
Oh, yeah. So bad.
I said, I was like, it's unfortunate that you couldn't use the rookies because they had just gotten there. I understand that. But it felt like they just kind of relied too much on certain cameos, and it just didn't flow as well as the Bear one did before. But I like the fact that they're trying, because a few years ago when they were mixing paint and they were dropping footballs in buckets.
Yeah.
Like that's how you're announcing the schedule reveal. Get the hell out of here.
I'll be honest. So I don't know if it's been released on who the main person is that they're like one of the main people that they're featuring on this episode. I'll tell you off air who it is, because I can't recall if I was allowed to say it or not, but I'll be honest, like hearing that name and then not even knowing who it was, I was like, I don't know if this is going to go as well as it has the last 2 years. So I'm really interested to see.
Okay.
Sorry, Chicago. It might be a letdown here, but
I'll prepare myself accordingly.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Gosh, I mean, I could talk football with you for hours. Like, I'm hoping to make it to a training camp session again. So if you are going, let me know which day, and hopefully we can kind of connect again, because that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, this was great. I know I'm going to ask you to come back on again. I'll talk to you about it off air, but there's some stuff that we're planning on doing for fun between now and the beginning of the season. And we were talking about possibly bringing on a guest as a fourth person within that episode. So I'm wondering if maybe you might be interested in that. And then the other person I was considering was Ryan. So I was going to reach out to him as well. So that guy has a voice for radio. I don't know what his day job is,
dude,
but I wish I had that voice because I would not be doing my day job.
He's so good. The nicest guy too. So Ryan is so nice. I'm like, I feel like an asshole, or I don't know if I can swear.
You can swear. We're explicit.
Okay. I feel like an asshole, like just even by comparison, because like this guy will go out of his way to make sure like you're okay and do anything for you. And yeah, his voice is so good. I even used him from like my actual day job. I'm like, hey man, we need a voiceover for a video. Would you want to do it? And we have like actual actors that we use. And I'm like, I want to try this guy. And it turned out to be fantastic. So great choice. Ryan is the absolute best. Really miss talking with him on a regular basis, but that should be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to reach out and we'll make something work. And, maybe I'll have you two on with me for a few episodes too. I don't know. We'll get you guys together and we'll get you paired back up that way.
Sounds good.
All right. For now, everybody bear down, claws up, hit that subscribe button, hit the comments, hit the like button. Until next time.
Ready, break.